bro! Oi, friend! Whale shark! There's a whale shark! Wait! Oh,
This trip was actually recorded quite a while ago, around the middle of last year, where me and a few of the boys headed out right after finishing a university exam in the hopes of just getting into a couple of good fish and also trying out a new reef. We started off the first day at Keeper Reef, which is generally what I call our home reef, where we do most of our spearing off Townsville and always get quite a lot of nice fish. This also happened to be my first trip out with the new roller gun. You would have seen the last videos, I had it pretty much sorted, and on this trip I was still getting used to it, had to miss a couple fish before figuring out how rollers really worked. And on our first day we actually had quite a rough ride out, but we got to the reef, and once we got behind the protection it wasn't too bad, and luckily we had really clean water, lots of bait getting around, and so we headed into the lagoon to do just a few dives before the sun went down. We anchored up and we sort of all split off to do our own thing, and Fran's on the bottom here. He's landed in between a bit of rubble on the sand, and he's actually got a really good breath hold. He can stay down for like 2 to 3 minutes, and he's really good at using techniques from dusting, looking down, and definitely really good at bringing those fish that are generally a lot smarter in close to get a nice shot on them. On this dive he had this big Spanish mackerel, probably between 15 and 20 kilos swim in, and he tries to take a long shot, hitting the fish a bit low, and it just goes for a big run, spooling him. And when you're in the lagoon like this with shallow bommies everywhere, it's pretty hard to keep your line out from tangling, and this is pretty much what we think happened with this Spanish, because we didn't actually get to see what went down at the end, but there were heaps of sharks swimming around it and the line was all tangled up at the rocks, so either the bull sharks got to him first or he broke free. Right after all the commotion went down, Ivan was swimming back to the boat, and a big bull shark, potentially the one that ended up getting that fish, was pretty much stalking him the whole way back, and not an ideal situation. Luckily the bull shark was hugging the bottom and not too interested in him, and it even had a bunch of COBIA on it, but Ivan wasn't confident enough to take a shot on them. It was definitely a good decision on his behalf, and particularly chasing COBIA, it's better you've got a dive buddy and that you're confident that you can land the fish, because bull sharks definitely can tell your behavior and you don't want to think that you're scared of them. So the next morning we wake up and we head to Grub Reef, where we have done a little bit of diving around but not a whole lot, and so the whole thing for that day was to explore new areas and just try to figure out some new ground and see if, you know, the reef's got quite a lot of nice fish and if it's worth coming to another time. We started our day diving some deeper ground between the 20 to 27 meter mark. On this dive here, Fran's around 25 meters deep and he's just scouting out a bit of rubbly, sandy bottom where you often get coral trout, spangled emperor, and sometimes you get the odd red emperor and species like that, but he's just trying to check out, see what's around, and we're taking it slow for the first couple dives, not wanting to shoot the first thing we see, and getting comfortable to doing some deeper dives before we move on to the next bommies. On this one you can see plenty of spangled emperor come in close, and he's even got a couple other fish swimming in to check him out. With a few nice reef fish in the esky, we decided to head out into some deeper water and chase cobia. We noticed lots of bull sharks getting around, and pretty much each one seemed to have a cobia either swimming by or following. And this was probably the first time we ever properly chased cobia. We've never really done it before, where we chummed up the water and tried to really get the bull sharks in close. Only recommend doing this if you've done quite a lot of diving and you're confident in this kind of situation. It can be a little bit risky, but on this day the bull sharks were relatively mellow and the cobia were very curious. And so we chummed up the water, and after a few minutes the first cobias started rolling in. I took a dive down when this bull shark came in to check the flasher, bringing the cobia in with it. I was able to close the gap between me and the fish, and unfortunately my GoPro turned off right at the last moment, and luckily Fran had a second POV where I actually stoned this fish right through the spine and he pretty much stopped instantly. Luckily as well, Ivan had a third POV where he dove down and grabbed the fish for me. It's crucial your dive buddies are ready to back you up when you're doing this kind of spearfishing. You never know when the bull sharks will turn around and decide to try eat the fish. Generally though, they get pretty spooked when you shoot the cobias, and we haven't personally had any get eaten by the bull sharks, but in other places around the world you do see videos where the bull sharks turn around and definitely have a go at your cobia. With the first cobia landed, we were pretty confident that we might be able to land one or two more. The bull sharks still seemed pretty mellow, and so we redrifted and continued to chum the water. Right after, Fran takes a dive down where this big cobia comes in, and I'll let this footage play through. It is a pretty astonishing shot. Lights out. As we drifted up into the shallower parts of the reef, I was given the opportunity to shoot my first ever purple cod, and I missed. And I was pretty annoyed at the time, but I was still getting used to this roller, and so it was fair enough that on this day I was still missing a couple fish. Right afterwards we did another drift, and Fran shoots a trevally to use for burley, and the shark started to get fired up. After losing the first fish to the sharks, we decided it's time to move on and do something else. There's no point chasing fish when the sharks are all fired up like this. They'll continue to eat your fish and you just won't have a chance at all to get them past the sharks. Right after this, a pretty magical moment happened when a whale shark swam in. One of the most special moments I've ever had while spearfishing, just watching this whale shark do its thing and cruise through the water. We chased a few more reef fish before calling quits for the day, and we were pretty happy with the esky we had, some nice COBIA, a few reef fish, and all around just such a special day. Getting to see that whale shark having a full glass off, and it's days like that that really make spearfishing so special. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I've got plenty more to edit, and hopefully we'll be getting a lot more videos out over the coming months. And stay tuned, lots of red emperor and lots of really good species that we've been finding.